Food Service Power Plant Network. Oh my gosh, favorite night of the week, Wednesday night. So stoked that you're joining us. I have a feeling tonight is going to be a really fun, memorable night. There are so many people who know Maureen Slocum, and there's a lot of people who call her friend. And those people get some of her inside story and know how and why she runs the Zoomba group the way she and her team do, and how they built it and why they built it the way they did, but not everybody. So tonight is going to be a rad night for you to get a little bit of an inside scoop. My belief continues to be the greatest impact on my own personal story is by hearing others. The greatest way I can believe I'm capable of something new that I haven't accomplished before is by hearing someone else who accomplished it, who did the thing I hope to do. And guess what? Maureen's got a really cool story, and she's been a part of some really cool things with she and her family and her team. And we can all relate to that. And so tonight's going to be a chance for you to listen and ask questions and find out how she made some of her decisions, because you might be chewing on things that you want to build and you want to grow, and cultures you want to create at your organization or in your family or wherever. So remember, get a notepad, have a pen to write down some nuggets. You're going to hear them along the way. We always do. And a couple of insights. Oh, someone's on. Hold on. Who's this? Boom. Love. Okay. I'm going to just see. So we're at it. I'm going to see if I can see us here. So I can see who's commenting. There we go. Kathy. It's Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Oh, you're awesome. Okay. So if you've got, if you want to, you can go to StreamYard/Facebook. You can type in your name, and then we can see who it is who's commenting, or I'll keep looking at my phone. The other thing to note is you can ask questions. If you've got questions for Maureen, go ahead and ask them. I'm not promising she'll answer, but chances are she will. And we'll get to that. You can pick her brain. It's going to be a fun night. Look who's on. Kevin Coachman is excited for tonight. Kevin, welcome, brother. Oh, someone else is excited. Alice and Cody's in the house. Hi, buddy. It's good to see you. Thanks for your text today. Okay, let's go make this happen. I'm so stoked. Maureen! Hi!
I'm nervous.
That's okay. I'm nervous for every single one of these. So nervousness, just consider it as like, let's look at it. We're going to give like a visual metaphor. It's like throwing a log in the fire for good energy. That nervousness is fuels. It's going to do great things. It's going to be wonderful.
Okay.
Let's start easy.
Trust you. I trust you.
Was it a good day?
It was a really good day.
Awesome.
Yes.
Any reason why?
We have a new puppy, and the puppy did perfectly today. No mess in the office. Kathy was in the office. Her dog was here. They first worked out their fight over the ball, and then they were throwing it to each other. Pretty cool, right?
That is so awesome. That was the highlight. Dogs. Okay. So dogs come to your office.
They do.
Let's just go there first, because this is fun. What is it when you were figuring out an office that you wanted to build for your team? Was that like an open conversation ahead of time? Like, we want dogs here, and here's the reason why?
So a little bit. I mean, I think we had enough, pavement under our feet that we understood what our team wanted, because we've been really, really lucky to have just an amazing team that have been with us since the beginning. And so we kind of went through this metamorphosis of, we thought we'd all work from home, we'd all work from our dining room tables, and then we decided we needed to spend time together. And so we had these really crappy offices. Well, actually, let me take a big step back. Our first office, Louise O'Sullivan rented me a tiny little office. And if she's on, I know she'll be okay with me saying this. It was sort of like the closet.
Okay.
And so that we would have a Michigan Avenue address, because when we started Zoomba Group, we wanted to make sure people understood that we weren't creating a family business, that we were a legitimate, like we were just carrying on that FENS name. And so we better have a big time address. So we started there. Obviously that was a very short-lived experiment. And then we ended up in these different offices. And then, long story short, we ended up building the buildings that we're in now. They are dog friendly. I've got a puppy sleeping at my feet right now. I'm actually in the office. So it's, reclaimed wood and light filtering, all energy efficient. And it really did take into consideration all the things that everybody on our team really liked. So they're like private space, so I can close that door. And behind me, it looks like a kitchen. So we like community space and private space, and people like bringing their dogs in. And I'm going to jump to the punchline, and that is that our HR director is called HR Finch at ZoombaGroup.com. He was a chinchilla. Lost him since, but his email lives on.
Okay, good.
So we're very pet friendly.
That is so great. The HR person was the chinchilla. David Maxwell's here. He's been looking forward to this. David, we are stoked you're here. Thanks for joining us. Who is this? Oh, Deirdre Flynn. It's beautiful. It does look gorgeous, by the way. It looks awesome. Okay, so we have so many people. Bolt is in the house. Kathy's in the house. Lots of great people. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so Maureen, you got a really fun story. And today you're the CEO of the Zoomba Group. And but you weren't always the CEO of the Zoomba Group. In fact, the Zoomba Group wasn't always around. You've had a pretty cool career progression. Can you tell us some of your history in food service, or just your career journey to sort of get to where we are now?
Yes. I'm going to say I think my journey is going to be very familiar to most people on the call, right? Grew up in a family, hardworking parents. Mom was a waitress. Dad worked multiple jobs, all that stuff. Always knew, anything you wanted to do, you better get it done yourself. So worked in restaurants, waitress, college, dishwasher. So it's kind of a common theme, right? Went on to be a food and beverage director very early in my career, and now I realize my life at 20. And then went on to become a DSR, first outside salesperson for an 80-year-old company, Allen Foods Fencingers. Didn't have a territory, so I had to cold call everything, but I was so grateful not to be closing down a country club or, closing out a restaurant that I was willing to, wear a pager. Back then we wore a pager, and at that point in time, I had friends that were like becoming doctors or, they were going to medical school. And they're like, oh, you have a pager? I'm like, heck yeah, I got a pager because, somebody might need green beans, 8:00 on a Friday night. And I got to go get those green beans because I was a food distributor. So did that for almost 15 years. During that course of time, opened up the first big prime vendor program in the country, which sold to University of Missouri hospitals and clinics, and then that morphed into University of Missouri. I should take a little step back here because I think one of my favorite things about that part of my journey was, since I had no business and I had no territory, I had to jump around the state of Missouri. And because I was a food and beverage director, I knew how to write menus. So I had to figure out, what could I, how am I going to get in? How am I going to sell stuff? So I actually started in the sorority and fraternity system in Rolla, Missouri, and then it went into University of Missouri, and then it went up to Kirksville. And I would go in and talk to the house moms because, again, I was like the only woman that would call on them.
Yeah. And
I'd say, okay, here's our deal. I'll write all your menus if you buy all your food from me. Okay. And that's really how my career launched in food service, distributor sales. And, there was a lot of times where, the competitors who had been doing it for a long time, they'd say, oh, she's the fluff. She's, they're going to send the guy in. you know, and then he'll take up the orders. And that really wasn't what happened.
In terms of menus, when did I love the idea, because I bet most people or maybe no one was doing that. And it was, I love ideas that think, how do I add value in a way that no one else is? That sort of helps get me in through, I love thinking about it through the side door, right? All these competitors you had, all these men were like, nope, this is how it's done. They'll send a guy and we knock on the front door, we make it happen. And you're like, well, I bet I could do it a little bit differently. And you endear people to you, you create that value. It's like creating a custom item. They want to hold on to you forever once you've helped them create this really unique thing. I don't know. How did you come to that idea?
I wish I could tell you it was a strategy. I think it was like desperation is the mother of all invention. You know, It was like, I'm not going to fail at this. And I really have to figure out what I'm going to do here. What do I know? I understand how to write menus. How can I translate that into opening restaurants? And next thing you know, it worked. And I think that ended up really morphing into this first prime vendor program because, you know, back then I would say, you know, I'm kind of lazy and I just want to make 5 stops a day, but I want to spend an hour and a half with people at each stop that I make. I don't want to do this 22 stops a day stuff and pick up $100 order. I want to spend an hour and a half and I want to pick up a $15,000 order.
Yeah.
So that sort of is how the whole prime vendor program evolved at University of Missouri in the hospitals. And then it ended up translating to the University of Missouri.
So was this in the 80s? Suzanne Simply wants to know, was this in the 80s?
It was in the 80s. Oh gosh. Yes. It was in the, let's see, when I graduated. Yes, it was in the 80s. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay. So you create this prime vendor program, and where'd you go from there?
So I was, I love this part of the story because, and this is a little bit about, I think, how food service is a lifestyle and not necessarily just a standalone career, because for everyone, I know for sure, everybody on this call, you know that you don't just do it alone, right? You've got other people around you. And most of you know that I married my high school sweetheart. So my husband was always part of this journey, and he had another career at the time, but he was also helping me enter these massive orders in at night. And for those of you old enough, we actually had to enter them into what was called an MSI. So this, like, it was so archaic. This like little computer thing that had a like a mouthpiece on it that you stuck on a landline, and half the time it actually transmitted the whole order, half the time it didn't, and you had to redo the whole thing over again. So you had to enter so we would spend hours and hours and hours entering these orders every night, you know, after, you know. And then once the big account came in, Dave and I looked at each other. We're like, hey, this is kind of like already a family enterprise. And so we approached the company that we worked for and said, hey, how about all, you know, the business that I had already sold throughout the state of Missouri? Could that possibly be something that Dave would take over? He was interested in doing it, and that's how he entered food service distribution.
Oh, so
he became a DSR at that point in time.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, I know that sometimes working alongside or with the spouse or doing it, and you're right. I mean, in food service, it really is a family and even a community thing. Like literally this weekend, I had friends that were on vacation somewhere and they were sending me pictures of them flipping plates on a table. Were
they in Greece, smashing plates, just having fun?
No, they're in California eating, flipping, just looking at, and they took a picture and they sent it to me. And that's now what my whole family does. I mean, Shannon is like, okay, who is XYZ company? Who is this? So how was it? I'm sure you all go through, maybe this is too personal, but we all go through ups and downs in our relationships and our careers, but generally, has it been good for you both to kind of be in the industry and when you were tag teaming together back in those days?
Oh, everything has been absolutely perfect. No, of course. Come on, nothing is.
I'm like, wait a minute, Maureen, you need to teach a class.
Right. Most people adore Dave, and they look at me with a side eye, like, how did he get her?
Oh gosh.
No, how did she get him? That's what I meant to say. No, I think that there is, and I do get asked that question because we have been together for such a long time, and I think there was, first of all, we were super lucky. And that we're very complementary to one another. We see things differently. I started in the DSR journey. He saw, how I behaved. I'm an early morning person. He could see already my stress points. He brought his own personality into the equation, and he had his own way of doing things, and it just really, I think, was really super complimentary. I think it's tough for couples to get into a business or get into something when they don't know how the other one could possibly behave in business. So we were lucky. We were able to see how the other one worked before we actually formed not only Zoomba group, but before we became co-workers as a distributor, et cetera. So I think that's, I think it's really helpful to kind of know, because, I'm going to jump to one thing that I really, really believe in and have for a long time. And that is, I don't feel like we should ever make people fit into a 9-to-5 environment. Some people work really, really well early in the morning. I'm one of those people. I'm pretty dead in the afternoon, if you will. We don't have meetings in the afternoon at Zoomba Group. We certainly don't meet on Fridays because I'm I really don't have anything to offer. I'm already kind of tapped out. However, I'm full of energy super early in the morning. Yeah. A lot of other people in our company, have a very different, way that they like to embrace their day. And I think we've done a good job of respecting that and knowing, hey, if I get an email from so-and-so at 9 p.m., they don't intend for me to reply because they already know I'm on my off hours. I'm not good then.
Yep.
And when I send them something at 5:30 in the morning, they know I don't need to talk to her until I'm on my schedule. And I think COVID has actually peeled that back for a lot of companies where they are really dealing with the fact that people need to work on their own biorhythms, their own way. And that doesn't change productivity, In fact, I believe people are a whole lot happier and a whole lot more productive when they work the way their bodies tell them to work.
I think everything I've read seems to say the same thing, that productivity a lot has gone up as people are working on their timeframes. And I love that you recognize sometimes organizations say, this is how we operate and you'll fit into this box. And that's what success looks like for you. You'll be successful in this box, as opposed to, tell me what makes you successful. Where do you operate the best, whether it's time of day or whatever that looks like? And I think it takes courage to give and trust to give people that freedom.
That already, kind of jumps to building the company that we all wanted to work for. I think there's just a real hardcore DNA factor in Zoomba Group, which is hiring fully formed adults who can figure their own shit out, pardon me, but and don't need a tremendous amount of supervision. You can't close. We do 28 different products now. You can't get that done without deadline, and everybody has to, do their own thing. So I think that's been a little bit of our success, is acknowledging that people all work at a different pace and they work under different circumstances, and different things make them happy and different things piss them off. And, we all just sort of have to acknowledge the fact that everybody brings so much to the table. How can we make it easier, or, lessen the load, or, at least acknowledge the challenge?
Heck yeah. I love that you do it too. That's my dog. Someone knocked on the door.
Let me just show you this. Can I do this?
Oh yeah. Let's see. Oh, who's that?
This is Leo.
Hi, Leo.
So he's been sleeping under the chair.
What a love.
Yeah. He's super chill.
Is he
That's
your puppy?
because pardon me?
Is that the puppy?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Good job, Leo.
One of the puppies. We've got a few puppies around here.
So great.
Puppies bring joy.
Oh, I so agree. Having my Molly, my dog, I'm trying to think, sleeps right back there on that couch in my office every day. And I'm working right here just next to me, and she's there, and it's the best. I'll go over for 3 minutes and sit on the couch, and she gets a little belly rub or whatever, and life's good. It's heaven. What? Okay, so you were a dealer. Let's go. I'm excited for people to hear more of your journey of how you came to food service equipment and supplies and create the Zoomba group.
All right. So when I was a DSR, I was, acknowledged as the DSR of the year. I guess that was back in '94. The magazine at the time was out of New York City. I was in Columbia, Missouri. And it was a very, very big deal for me, obviously. Cover of the magazine, pretty exciting. Yeah. Oh my God.
Does that look familiar? Oh, my phone went off. There we go.
Yeah.
That's an awesome picture. How old were you then?
30. I don't know. God, I'm terrible at math.
That's all right. That's right.
It's okay, but you know what's special about that picture? Can I tell you what's so special about that picture?
Yep.
At the time, I didn't know I was pregnant with our daughter, Samantha.
Oh, wow.
And I also spent I spent the most amount of money I've ever spent in my life on a pair of shoes to match that outfit, and it didn't hit the photo shoot. The important takeaway is Samantha was in the picture.
Oh, Samantha made the picture.
So it's a kind of a special picture for me.
Apparently you were 32.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody just is correcting me.
I guess so. I'm trying to see. Let's see.
Probably Samantha.
Maybe it was Samantha. This is so great. And someone has a question. Was that Institutional Distributor Magazine?
Yes, ID.
Mm-hmm. Wow, cool. Yeah. Look at all these memories, people coming together.
Yes. And I'm going to share something that very few people know here.
Yeah.
When I asked, and the publisher at the time was Niles Crum, and he went on to be the publisher of FENS magazine, and that's how I ended up getting a job selling advertising for FENS. So I'm forever grateful to Niles for that. And I asked him, I'm like, how did you pick me for for this unbelievable honor? And I'm in the middle of nowhere, Columbia, Missouri. And he said, I'll tell you a secret. You're the only person who sent me a thank you note after being DSR of the month.
Wow.
I wish I could tell you all that I am fabulous about sending thank you notes. I am not. And it's like something that drags on me. Like, I wish I was better at that now. Now I feel like, now I'll send a quick text or I'll send an email. But the power of a thank you note can be pretty life-changing.
Yes. That is amazing. And I think I get personalized cards from like Vistaprint, and it's amazing when I have thank you cards back on my, I can't figure out how to point that direction, but back on the board that way. People just thank you notes that people get just after meeting or whatever. And it means so much to get a handwritten note. You're so right. The power of what that can do. Or taking notes, Samantha, baby's first photo shoot. You looked wonderful. Look at this. This is last year's DSR of the year. Bolt is in the house. I love the flexibility that you've been able to extend to your team during the pandemic and possibly beyond. Not all people do their best work between 9 and 5. This builds an amazing foundation for great culture and also incredible tenure. I love all of it, particularly the last point about tenure, Maureen, because I mean, so many of the people, I know we're getting to you buying the Zoomba group, but we'll dive ahead real quick. Virtually everyone that you started with, or maybe everyone that you pulled in, you recruited when you started Zoomba group is still with you today, correct?
Yes. And that is such a huge point of pride for me. When I had the opportunity to buy the FENS brand, which I received a hard drive, and I got some fun little, I think, things I'd like to share with the audience about that whole process. But, I made some phone calls to people in the industry, and certainly, one of the first calls I made was to Joe Carbonara. And, Joe, I think I'm going to be able to buy this. And, are you in? Are you in? Which, shout out to Deidre Flynn if she's still on the call, because she knows that I went to her to find the right person back when I was just the publisher at RBI, when I needed to kind of take ownership of being the publisher for the first time. And she led me to Joe. And then I just, I just arm twisted the heck out of that guy.
You said, we're on Michigan Avenue. Come on, you got to join us.
That was before we got to Michigan Avenue. We were nowhere then. Oh. We didn't even have Michigan Avenue. I was arm twisting him off the train going into the city. I was just like, oh, this is. He's like, hey, I'm getting married. I'm like, there is no better time to make big changes than all at once. Get married, change your career, maybe have a baby. Do it all.
I'll give you some Xanax just in case panic attacks happen, and dive right in, pal.
That's right. That was before I learned about Xanax. Had I known, I would have been carrying that. So,
that's great. Yeah. This is Tom Lyons, by the way. Tommy Lyons, what's up, buddy? I bought my first ad at Stero from Maureen. So great, Tom.
You probably felt some arm twisting, maybe.
Here we go. Joe's here. She's not fibbing. She twisted my arm all the way to Oak Brook, Illinois. So great.
Yeah. Yes. And so I've been really so fortunate because I have surrounded myself, by design. I mean, I definitely have sought out the best, brightest, smartest people I can possibly find, attract, arm twist, whatever, to be a part of this journey, because it's always about the people. I don't care what you're doing. I don't know. Whatever the platform is. If you are not surrounded by people that bring you up and lift you up and you can learn things from, then you might be, feeling like you're spinning your wheels. You can still learn things from people that are awful. I've learned things from people that were awful. And you know what I learned? I learned I'm not going to be awful. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to treat people that way. That's not going to be, if I'm ever queen of the forest, that's what I'm not going to do. So
I think it's a great lesson in that you can learn everywhere and from anyone. It doesn't mean you stay in everyone's orbit. There are people that at times in my life I've had to say, if a phrase I learned years ago is that I am the sum of the 5 people I spend the most time with. So if I hang out, generally speaking, people who eat really well and, are like triathletes, let's say, chances are if those were my people, I would be that. I would gravitate towards them. They would push me. I would push them. It's not necessarily my sphere. Some of it is, but and so there are times in life where you have to say, listen, I'm really grateful for the time we had together and I learned a lot. I need to separate you, either say it out loud or not. But I love that you can learn from everywhere. There is no place that's off limits for you to take a look, recognize what you value and what you don't, and make a note to yourself on who you want to be in the future.
And if I could tag along on that, Jason, I would say some of my best lessons were probably from some of my worst teachers. You know, they were the lessons that I really took to heart about things I did not want to do as much as how I wanted to be. And I think that has informed this company.
It's, I think about it all the time, how sometimes the things that motivate me are a dream in the future of what I want. And that excites me and it pulls me forward. It puts me into action, all these things, because there's something in the future you wanted to build something. You created a company you had always wanted to work for. There's a dream, a future good. But there's also things that I'm running from that I intentionally want to make sure that I'm not a part of that also push me and motivate me. It doesn't just have to be the good. Sometimes I think we think that, you know, in being positive, we only are just looking for the good. No, it's also important to learn lessons. There's reasons, you know, I don't smoke because of an image I saw of lungs in 6th grade. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want my lungs to look like that. Or I don't, you know, a whole host of things like that I don't, because I've seen the consequences. And so I don't go that way, while also desiring health or whatever, same in a relationship. So I think it's a really good lesson, Maureen, for people to learn, is you can be equally motivated by things you don't want to be as much as you can by things you do want to become.
I think so. Yeah.
Did you talk about when you got a call at one point? You'd been in publishing, yes, and you had with FENS magazine, correct? And you, is it okay to talk about this? You had left to
I don't
go.
know. What are you gonna reveal?
I don't know. But you had gone and left. You had at some point.
Oh yeah, I'm more than happy. Joe knows the story well too, and Dave, of course, and Samantha and Nicholas. So I was ad sales, became a publisher pretty quickly on. Did not know what I was doing. Hello, by the way. Asked me to move, to Chicago. Dave and Sam and Nicholas stayed behind. I moved in with my brother-in-law. We were a three-legged dog and a guitar away from a country western song. We're doing TV dinners for 6 months. Watching, 2.5 Men, 3.5 Men, whatever it was. So I would go into the office a lot to try and learn how to be a publisher, because there was so much for me to learn. And fast forward, I brought Joe in, Carol, Chris. I also met Tracy Mugen, who's our director of operations, and she was, this is a 14,000 person operation. Read Business Information was the world's largest global publishing house.
Wow.
And, there was, I feel like a strength of mine was the ability to recognize people who really, really were fabulous. And oftentimes they were, in some cases, maybe not recognized as such. Those are the people that, are today still Zoomba group members, and I hope for a very long time. So did everything they asked me to do, went in with the promise that I'd be the publisher of Restaurants and Institutions, which was sort of my dream job, because I came out of the food end of the world, and that, that was sort of the big carrot that was hanging out there for me. And so they'd say, jump 10 feet, I'd jump 15, do this, do that. I just always did. I outperformed pretty much my peers there. And then they had Korn Ferry come in and a few times, and they flew me to New York a few times to interview for the position, and every time it got rejected. And I'm like, my God, I'm not, I don't know what more I can do. Moved my family, I've done everything you've asked me to do. I've built a great team, we're doing everything. And I was walking down the hall one day, and I got a phone call, and it was from an anonymous source. And they said, listen, they're never going to promote you. They're never going to promote you. They don't see you in that role. You're a producer, you're not a manager, kind of thing. And so they said, but we have a company that would love to have you. So long story short, I ended up leaving the company, working for a civil and structural engineering company, which, let me tell you, I knew nothing about at all. I now know more about stormwater drainage than I ever dreamed I would. But and then we ended up selling that company. I had no ownership in that company, but we drove it to sale. It was the only publishing house that sold in 2009, and everybody remembers 2009 was a really horrible year. And I'm like, okay, so now what am I going to do? So I called a lot of my friends in food service. I used to say, the difference between food service and the engineering world is, it's the difference between the thinkers and the drinkers. And I like the drinkers better. So I wanted to go back to food service. I couldn't get a job to save my life. I was calling companies and just trying to, could I work for benefits? Could not get a job. So I had a couple of companies that said, listen, if you were a contractor, then we could hire you because you wouldn't be on our payroll, you wouldn't be benefited. And that's when Louise and I really connected, Louise O'Sullivan. And Louise said, oh my gosh, Maureen, I'll hire you. I'm starting this new business and, I'd love to have you. And so my first job as Zoomba Group, let me back up. I think most of you guys know, but Zoomba Group was born out of, again, desperation. Zoomba Group is the Urban Dictionary definition of make it happen, make it move. It's not a dance. It's COOMBA. And I could buy it for $100. I could buy the domains for $100. And I thought my vision at that time was, there's a lot more people like me out in the world. We're out of a job. We have a good skill set. We can sell stuff. We know things. We'll all, gather these other people around and we'll all be this collaborative, group of people. And that would be Zoomba Group. So Zoomba Group, the first employee was me to hire myself because I was unemployed. And Louise hired me and gave me my first job as Zoomba Group. Fast forward 9 months, things were kind of falling apart in the publishing world. And I was given the opportunity to buy the FENS brand. 7 people were able to buy the brand. There was a lot of gymnastics that went into that project. I am one of, as I understand it, 2 that continue to own their brand. So when Dave and I, we looked at each other when we had this chance, and we said, of course we're going to buy this, of course, because I knew it inside and out. And the caveat was there was going to be no due diligence. So you could buy the brand, but no due diligence because they'd already gone through 18 months of all these other shenanigans with all these other buyers. Wow. So when we bought the brand, we looked at our kids and we said, college overrated, retirement, never going to do that. Mortgage up to here, 401k, forget it. We scraped every nickel we could together, went to our friends, went to our family. Could you loan us some money? What, we'll pay you back. We promise we'll pay you back. And we have paid everyone back that loaned us money. But we never, had to take on investors, if you will. And we got a hard drive.
Here you go. Here for whatever you just put in, all the 401k. This is your gift.
Yeah. And then that's again where everything ricochets back to it's all about the people. We had this really incredible group of super smart people that believed in us and they believed in the brand and they believed, they trusted us. They trusted us that we could pull this off. And that was 11, 12 years ago.
Holy cow. So in those, there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement. Who's this? This is Shauna Snyder. Shauna's with Avanti, I think, right? Shauna Snyder, Allison Cody, amazing. Kevin Coachman, what an amazing leap of faith Tom Stritch, success comes from believing in yourself. I love your story. That kind of a risk, pulling it all out, right? From everywhere and everything to say, we're all chips are in with this. What was so, obviously there's something so moving about this opportunity for you and Dave and your family. What was it about it that you were so excited about that you were willing to risk all the things you'd saved and all the ways you'd invested and say, we're going all in here?
Man, that's such a good question. No one's ever asked me that before. I know the answer. The answer is I didn't feel believed in at Reed when I ran the brand to success. I kept getting knocked down, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't get promoted, couldn't, just, boom, boom, boom. And I knew in my gut, I'm like, man, I know what I'm doing. I know how this works. I know how this should behave. And most importantly, I know it can look different. It doesn't have to be this traditional, crap. It can be completely different. So when we were given the opportunity, we knew that. I knew I didn't need any due diligence. I already knew the numbers inside and out. I already knew what it took. I already knew all that, I already had that experience. And so it never, people say, oh, isn't it hard to be, to own a business? Isn't it, and I'm like, actually, no, it's actually easier because I feel more in control. I don't have anybody above me. I don't have to, do a song and dance to explain what's happening here. And I can allow the people around me to flourish, right? So they can feed me and, and I can report to them.
Yep.
So we really flattened. When we started Zoomba Group, it was a very incredibly flat organization. Technically everybody reported to me, but I reported to everyone.
Yeah.
So there was never any kind of hierarchy system that we put into place.
First I'm going to read this comment below. This is from our friend Louise O'Sullivan, who's on tonight. I so hated to see this talented woman leave Prime Advantage, but turned out Maureen made a beautiful new company. Oh, Louise, you're so right. Hello, friend. Who's this? This is Tom Lyons. Here's a question for you. Had FENS ceased operations when you bought it? So essentially, did you resurrect the brand? Good question, Tom.
Yeah, I love that question because, when we got it, the whole idea was that the magazines had all failed. This entire collection of magazines had failed within this. They had not failed. What Reed decided, and again, world's largest global publishing out of the Netherlands, they had decided that they no longer wanted to do the what do they call it, the SIP and the PIP, right? 14,000 employees. They didn't want to do all these benefits. And it was cheaper to retire these brands than it was to even attempt to sell them. Because they didn't want all these people involved anymore. So they wanted to go to a completely paid platform. So paid subscriber platform. They own LexisNexis, Read Exhibitions, a whole bunch of other products. So FENS was doing fine when they closed it down. However, management had really, if I can say, and Joe was still there and doing his damnedest to keep it all straight. Because then I think he had like a whole bunch of magazines that were reporting to him and a whole bunch of people that were reporting to him. But, they had all sorts of archaic rules, about how many ads were in the magazine, there's how many pages you could have for editorial, and they were losing the focus. And, it just became such a monster. So so long story short, no, the magazine was a viable source. It had just been, cut to death. You know, death by a million cuts, I guess, is what the phrase is.
Awesome. Great question, Tom. And I'm glad that you were able to. I mean, there's something about vision and being able to see something in the future. Like as you describe it, it seemed like you knew going in what you were getting to some degree, certainly. And you knew what, I'm sure it evolves over time. It always does. But you knew what you wanted to build, the culture, the team, the people. I think a strong vision is enough to pull people to sacrifice a lot of things or to take risks. I'm not saying unhealthy risks, but a lot of risks, because what moves us more than vision? The vision to create something beautiful, some new art, some new value, some new service to the industry. There's few things greater than that, I think, to pull us forward in those times.
Yeah, I sometimes my vision was as deep as like looking at a People magazine and saying, why can't a B2B magazine be beautiful? Or Architectural Digest, or, anything, I mean, I was just so hungry for products that were on the news shelf, if you will, or at the grocery store. And I'm like, why does this have to look a certain way? And why can't it really be about all original content and, creating beautiful stories and being not influenced by your business model? Yep. And that was, and apparently to this day, a departure of most B2B magazines. So, our philosophy is we're an original content creation company, and however you want to consume us, great, that's fine. Doesn't have to be in a print magazine, doesn't have to be in a website, doesn't have to be here, doesn't have to be there, doesn't matter. But the world needs original content creators, and that requires really smart people, coast to coast, to interpret markets. And that's our foot forward, and that's our mission. And we have not diverted from that. It's pretty straightforward.
I love it. You're adding value regardless of where you are in the country or the world. You're adding value because you're understanding what's going on there and you're educating all of us. Kathy says, not only did she prove she could run what she knew, but she also built an entirely new brand in Restaurant Development and Design magazine. Can you tell us, Maureen, tell us about Restaurant Development and Design, how that came to be?
So we were approached by a company that was doing some very intimate relationship building events that were surrounded by architects, designers. We've always had a very, very strong relationship with the consultant community that we're very proud of. And now there was this whole architecture, design, and consultant community that was looking at this very specific niche design. So one of the things that we stay true to is being very focused and very niche, right? I like to say, nobody really wants to buy, guns, tobacco, elephants, and horse magazine anymore if they only want the tobacco. They just want what they want, right? So they don't want this whole scattershot approach. So since we're already in, food service equipment and supplies is very niche, very much in its lane. Restaurant development and design, so that's niche, that's hyper niche, right? So now we're going to even pull it even tighter in order to say, okay, do you just do restaurant design? No one was doing it. So because we were exposed to these conferences, we developed this product. And it's a beautiful magazine. It's up for Magazine of the Year. We just found out yesterday. And
wow, congrats.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous magazine. And it's very different than FENS. So it's a different business model. It's different advertisers. It's different other things. But it's been a labor of love for everybody on this team. When we created it, I said, We're going to put all the money, all the chips, kind of like what we did with FENS, like all the chips are in. If we never sell one ad, we're just going to make this gorgeous, beautiful product that we all want to show our family and our friends and say, look at what we did. And then if it doesn't succeed, at least we did the best we could. But it has been, it's going just fine.
It sounds like it. Thanks I don't know. I love when someone has an idea and they want to do something unique and they want to make it the best it can possibly be. I'm a believer in the power of art and the power of creation to point towards something beyond or something. I mean, to me, when I see a form of art that I never even imagined before and someone blows me away, whether they create a brand or they create a thing, it just gives me hope in the possibilities of, I never even saw that coming. And that is beautiful and it's amazing. And so to see someone take something from an idea and turn it into a real product, not just a real product, but you use the word beautiful a few times when you were describing that magazine. And beautiful, it's not something on a spreadsheet. That's not what moves you. It's not, I mean, it's something that moves people. It's an essence to it. It's, you know, I'm a believer people don't go to Starbucks for the coffee. They go for the experience and the feel and when you walk in, you feel a certain way. And so I love that there's an essence about that magazine that so moves you and you wanted to create. And now it's maybe turning into possible awards.
And I have to throw some love to FES too, because we really did, we look at old copies of FES, what we did with, shout out to our art director, Ann Lacasio. What a joy it's been to work with these super creative, talented people. I mean, when Ann was at Reed and when she came, when she and I sat together at a Starbucks down the road and talked about this, what she presented to me was a children's book of illustrations that she had done, right? Had nothing to do with equipment and supplies, nothing to do with B2B, nothing. And I was just like, fell in love instantly. I'm like, yes, that's what we're looking for. The essence of different, everybody should bring something different here and bring some different, texture and love and vision. And that's what brings me joy.
Oh, okay. So we're going to end with a couple of my favorite questions. That's what brings you joy. We all have times where we wake up and we're in a funk or we're in a rough stretch and our energy's low. Other than paddleboarding with Louise and her dog.
I'm terrible at that, by the way. She's a fibber. Yeah.
What are some of your go-tos that you use that help pick you up, that can kind of put your mind in the right place? For any of us watching, taking notes, new things we can try maybe.
All right. So there's, you mean outside of taking a nap?
A nap is a great one. That's a great answer.
It's hard for me to turn my head off. I know it's hard for everybody on this call to turn their heads off, right? So I did go to a class a few times about deep breathing and, calming yourself down and trying to quiet your mind. And I will honestly say that has really worked for me when other things have not. I do believe that, own your morning, own your day. And so any kind of exercise in the morning is always sets me off on a good path. But in that, when I need to calm myself down, that deep breathing exercise, you can look at it in a million different places. It really works. It's a proven method of kind of calming yourself. And when you can calm yourself and you can soothe yourself, that frees your mind for happiness, I think, so.
Heck yeah. Well played. There's one that I like. I think it's Wim Hof Method, and there's so much science behind it. So people go look it up, and Maureen's spot on there. Deep breathing it centers you, it calms you. It does a lot of things chemically. It's kind of like a little bit of biohacking. You're changing the chemicals inside. So you sort of have you give yourself a different perspective on whatever challenge you're facing. And I love it. That's a great one. Go look it up, friends. Okay. Next question. What does success mean to you in your world? How do you define if you're successful?
All right. All right. So I think success for me has been an ever changing process, right? So initially, when it was just me, myself, and I, success really was financial independence. I really was motivated by being financially independent, and not, and just, taking care of myself, my orbit, all of those things. Um, Fast forward, of course, that was a million years ago, right? So fast forward, to me now, success is defined by the people around me and how they are enjoying what we've built here. Their success, privately, quietly, I feel like is a little bit of my success. And that brings me a lot of happiness. So it was very internal when I was younger, and it feels very external now.
I love it. I love the change. I love that it can evolve. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you for asking.
When I don't know if you ever want to hang it up. I don't know if you ever want to retire and just be on a paddleboard the rest of your life. You might not want to be, but
I told you I can't paddleboard. Where is Louise?
Louise told me differently, and
okay.
She got to me first. So I have this image of you like competing in the Olympics on the paddleboard with a dog. When in 50 years, whenever that is, and the industry looks back at the legacy that Maureen Slocum left to both her organization, her company, but also the industry, what do you hope that they say?
I think it's not only a really challenging question, it's a very intimate question, right? I think when it comes to legacy, the most important legacy ever that I and Dave have are our children. And I believe that we've put them on the right path of, working parents. I've heard in other talks all the guilt that comes along with a working mom, and believe me, I've had like decades of that. But raising really strong, healthy, smart, motivated, happy people is the greatest legacy that I could ever have. That trumps everything else. That's the most important thing. The fact that they are now a part of this company is just such a bonus. It's such a silver lining, because they're standing for the things that we believe in, which is fully formed adult people that don't need a lot of supervision, that have a lot of creativity, and they have a lot of different ideas that are embraced.
I love that's your answer. And I will say, being, my kids are still younger, and the way you describe, it's Samantha and Nicholas, correct? Mm-hmm. The way you describe Samantha and Nicholas is our hope in our home for what Haley and Liam become. And we have no idea. We're like, oh my gosh, are we just messing them up beyond all measure? Are we?
I'm not saying my kids aren't messed up by me. I'm sure that they could tell you 22 hours of that, but.
But I think that's the ultimate gift, when you feel like, in good and bad, your kids know how to operate the world and pursue the things that they love, enjoy, and that they can make whatever their dreams are happen, that they have that belief in themselves and that confidence that, what, mom and dad taught me, and I tripped and I took risks along the way, and what, I can figure this out. I think it's wonderful. Who's this? David Maxwell. It all starts at home. David, I think you're right. Kevin Coachman. Thank you, Maureen and Jason, for a great hour. Maureen, this is my favorite part of the night, and I hope you're okay with it. I
Oh,
asked,
is this where we get to sing a duet?
I'm always game, and we can bring Craig Wilson on. He'll play the piano if we want. And
Oh, he's really good.
oh, he's great. No, this is my favorite part where, in terms of legacy and what you mean to people in the industry, there are a few people that shared some stuff about what you mean to them. If I get emotional, it's just me. This is just what happens. But you've meant a lot to a lot of people, and the team that works for you and the people that you have shared life with in this industry are different. And all of them would say and have told me that they're better because you were a part of their journey. Kathy Langlois. Maureen is one of the most generous people I know. She is the epitome of a servant leader and is committed to the growth and the success of her team, which is what you sort of spoke to in terms of how you define success a minute ago. I think that's awesome. She is legendary for creating experiences for everyone around her. So it's perfect that she's built a business dedicated to telling stories about the food service and hospitality industry. She is a difference maker, and I feel so fortunate to call her my friend. Deirdre Flynn. From the moment you meet Maureen, you feel like you've known her for years. She is all about connecting people with and to information that helps them. She is passionate about what she does in our industry and never looks at risk as a downside, but instead an adventure. Man, if that didn't touch on some of what we talked about. Joe Carbonara. Everyone sees Maureen as the business person, but first and foremost, she's the family person. Her roles as daughter, sister, mother, and spouse really shape Maureen's approach and her philosophy. When a family member is in need, Maureen helps lighten their burden by being there with them every step of the way. She and Dave are great partners in life as well as in business. Maureen is very conscientious about her entire team. When something's amiss, her care instincts kick in, and she tries to help the individual through the situation in a thoughtful and a generous manner. As a business leader, Maureen always invites people to offer their suggestion or input on any given situation. She wants them to feel heard. In working with advertisers, Maureen always looks to creatively develop win-win situations so all parties feel value and included. That way, everyone walks away from the table feeling engaged and good about themselves. Maureen's earliest work experiences came in the hospitality industry, and they continue to shape the way she views her company, the team, and the industry we cover. She's a gracious host and works very hard to make sure people feel welcome at her table, whether that's socially or for a business meeting. Louise O'Sullivan. This is our last one. Maureen Slocum is a courageous, fearless leader who built her company around extremely talented people who truly enjoy just being in the same room with her. While the first thing you might notice about Maureen are her enticing smile and her great sense of humor, behind that lovely face is a caring, compassionate, creative, intelligent, talented, warm, and driven woman who epitomizes all that is great in our industry. Maureen is a dedicated wife, mother, one of the capable few who challenges all of us to be better, leads the charge, and shows us the way.
I guess I get to retire now, huh?
Well, I'd say keep having fun, but whatever the dream was, whatever the mission was, whatever you were out to create, it seems like you did it. And so keep feeling whatever that is inside you that moves you, that creates those visions, that creates that desire to watch others succeed. It's affecting a lot of lives. There's a lot of people on here who commented tonight just about inspiration. A lot of people here where you probably don't have to wonder too much about your legacy, because the people, some of our greatest industry contributors and people who care about you, have just shared it. So thanks for the way you've chosen to serve, Maureen.
Well, I mean, wow. Um, Thank you for providing this platform. I'm I'm kind of speechless right now. So um, I'm grateful for all those comments, and the check is in the mail.
Who's this? This is Uplifting and Starshine Bright. That's our buddy Taz. Charlie's on. This is Shauna Snyder. What a great way to end my night. So inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing. Shauna, keep pursuing your dreams, friend. Kathy, that says it all right there. She love you. That is so good. I love your relationship. Friends, thanks for joining us. Maureen, thank you for giving us an hour and 6 minutes and for sharing your story.
Thank you. My goodness. I was really nervous about this, and I really am grateful that you're doing this for the industry, and you're giving people a chance to talk about themselves that are most oftentimes very much out of their comfort zone. And so you're really, you're really offering something amazing. And I'm grateful that you invited me. So thank you.
This is awesome. Thanks, Maureen. Look at this. Your daughter learned a bunch tonight. That is so awesome. Who's this? This is Deirdre Flynn. Thank you, Maureen and Jason. D, we love you. You're awesome. Food Service Power Plant Network. Remember, who's this? Oh, Bolt. Thank you for a beautiful night. Bolt, thanks for joining us. You're two people that can share some stories that most people can't, which is fun. You have that really fun connection. I love that. Hopefully you took some notes and got some nuggets. Remember, there's nothing more powerful than story. To see what someone's really done, the risks they really took, the way they really lead and serve. And so take some nuggets of Maureen's story and you can bring them into your own experience. Think about what you're trying to create. Think about what you're trying to build. Think about some of the ways that Maureen did some things along the way, the people she surrounded herself with, the things she did. She, had a vision and a passion and she went for it. And we're all better because of it. And we all know more and we learn more and we're inspired because of that. So, I don't know, take a few nuggets, do some deep breathing. Maybe if you find yourself in a challenging situation where you're a little bit anxious, there you go. I did one this morning in meditation. He was telling me 4 seconds in, hold it for 2, 8 seconds out. So I went with it. It was great. So do some deep breathing. If you find yourself in that moment where you're freaking out a little bit or you got a lot on your shoulders, and just step aside, calm down, use that. And there's lots of wisdom. Remember, we're epically proud of you. We're over a year now into this, and there's certainly a light at the end of a tunnel for many of us. We know a lot of our Canadian friends are still in the thick of it. So we're with you as a lot of you are continue to be in lockdown. Hopefully tonight lifted you up a little bit. David, so glad this was a great hour for you. And remember, if you're in a tough place right now, there's a lot of hope, but if you're not feeling it, it's okay. Your first words to yourself are, of course I am. Of course I'm in a tough place. Chances are you've got things going on. You've got a story behind you that you're holding on to or bringing along. And there's a reason. Remember, and part of the goal of these conversations and why this talk with Maureen is special tonight and all of them is because it's opening hopefully a door for you to feel like, you know what, I can't share my story with someone. And hopefully there's people in your world that you trust that you can go to. Don't carry that burden alone. Life is meant to be shared. It's meant to be done in community. And that's why we're doing it as such. So keep going. You're stronger than you realize. You're capable of more and continue to dream. I think so often, my life, my experience when I'm not dreaming about something that moves me is so way less joyful. And when there's something in the future that I'm working toward or hoping for, just like Maureen's story, what she's building or for her family or her community, seeing people succeed, it's something that ignites a fire inside always. It's hard to wake up without that when you've got big things you're trying to accomplish. And so if you don't have a vision for your life, where you're going, what you want to be, where you want to go, take some time away tonight, this weekend, and just make some notes. What do I want life to look like? Whether it's in your career, in your personal life, with your family, in your relationships, in your physical health. Dream in your ideal world. What would it look like? Maybe you want a puppy. Maybe
and get a puppy.
Absolutely. And get a puppy. This is great. These closing remarks bring me to tears. Happy, positive, inspiring. Thank you, Jason Bolt. You are a rock star. We love you. Everyone, from the three of us, thanks for joining us. Have a great night. Be well, everybody. Thanks, Maureen.
Thank you, Jason.